Story appears ordinary until you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
Core TV News, expanding your view.
Warm welcome to Core TV Primetime News. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. In our major story, scores die as multiple bomb blasts rip through a market in Jos, the Plateau State capital. Senate unanimously approves extension of the state of emergency in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe, gives federal government 7 conditions to ensure successful implementation. A federal high court in Abuja says it lacks jurisdiction to entertain a suit filed by Sanusi Lamido Sanusi challenging his suspension as the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria. And outside Nigeria, a judge orders South African Paralympian Oscar Pistorius to undergo 30-day psychiatric tests to establish if he is responsible for killing his girlfriend.
And in business news, drop in Nigeria's external reserves rattles the nation's apex bank.
And sports, Super Eagles coach Stephen Keshi says players' mentality is right ahead World Cup.
We'll begin tonight in Jos, the violence-prone capital of Plateau State that was rocked by multiple explosions. The tragedy, which ripped through the terminus market, reportedly killed scores of traders and customers in the commercial area. Core TV News gathered that the first bomb blast went off in the market located at Jos Railway Terminus at the back of the popular Amadou Bello Way at about 2:30 p.m., while the second explosion followed about 30 minutes later. The second blast was said to have killed more people than the first one, as many residents and traders who had fled the scene over the first explosion joined rescue agencies to save the injured and retrieve the bodies of the dead. The first explosion was said to have gone off in a Sienna space bus marked Plateau XB 146 BLD. Men of the fire service who responded to distress calls to fight the inferno that triggered the blast were said to have strayed far away from the market over fears that more bombs could have been planted in the area. The injured were evacuated to the Jos University Teaching Hospital and the Plateau Specialist Hospital in the city. Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency says the casualty rate after the twin bomb blast at the terminus market in Jos could be best described as catastrophic. The coordinated National Emergency Management Agency, Abdusalam Abubakar, says the first explosion had gone off in the center of the market, while the second followed about 14 minutes later. Abubakar said both explosives were loaded in parked cars. He said that an idea of the total number of casualties is only possible after the rescue operation. Victims and residents of Sabongari in Kano are recounting their losses after a suicide bomb attack that killed 5. Some residents say they will not be frightened by the attacks. Stephen Owogo lost 2 daughters to the explosion.
This is a bomb blast and it affected my 2 daughters, and they are my future. They are my future. And I'm confused. I don't even know where I will start, and I don't even know where I will begin in my life.
Right now I'm going to Kano, and I'm even close to where the bomb explosion is. And I used to enter there So the only thing I can say now, I will just only say, let everybody in Nigeria, not even Kano, all the Nigerians, we have to be praying, Christian and Muslim. We have to be praying for us to stay peace in Nigeria.
I live in Kano and I do my business there. The bomb cannot scare me. That's what I'm saying. I encourage all Nigerians to do so. We will not run for our country because of somebody we don't know or somebody who feels he can scare us with whatever he's planning.
In Ekiti State, Nigeria's Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs have held a procession demanding the release of the over 200 girls abducted in Chibok. Ekiti State correspondent Rashid was at the protest rally. His report is presented from our studios.
Protest and condemnation have continued over the abduction of over 200 schoolgirls abducted in Chibok, Borno State. Many more Nigerians are adding their voices to the demand that has attracted global attention and military interventions. The Muslim community in Ekiti State condemned the act, demanding for an unconditional release of the girls.
We demand for the safe release of the abducted girls, adding that government should do everything possible to release these girls, including negotiation. Ekiti State Muslims strongly condemn religious interpretation of Boko Haram activities. The entire Muslim community in Ekiti State regard the abduction of Chibok girls as national tragedy. The Boko Haram should not be called or referred to as an Islamic group.
The protest started at Faji Park with Muslim students, women and men saying the Boko Haram ideology is totally against the tenets of the religion.
The Prophet said in a hadith that learning knowledge is compulsory from birth to death. So how can somebody now come out and say that seeking for knowledge is haram in Islam? No. Islam is based on knowledge. In fact, our greatest asset in Islam is knowledge.
Boko Haram, as we to know it, it's an aberration in Islam. They are an insurgent and they are in no way representing the Muslim community of Nigeria. They should release the girls unconditionally because this is seriously against the principle of Islam.
Various groups that participated in the protest called on the abductors to release the schoolgirls.
We are appealing to federal government, Boko Haram, and all the people supporting this issue. We are appealing to them for Allah's sake to release our children.
I'm pleading with the Nigeria government to hasten the release of our abducted girls. Please bring back our girls.
The clerics at the rally admonished members of the Boko Haram sect to change their ways.
We are telling the Boko Haram people to stop this, to stop their activities. Because if they know that they are really Muslim, Islam doesn't preach violence.
The protesters ended the rally at Ado Ekiti Central Mosque and prayed for the safe return of the girls. They also prayed for the military personnel involved in the search for the girls.
Members of the Lagos State House of Assembly have cautioned the federal government over planned negotiation with the Boko Haram sect for the release of the abducted schoolgirls. The federal government has been under increasing pressure to negotiate with the Boko Haram insurgents so as to regain the custody of the abducted schoolgirls. The chairman, Public Accounts Committee, Dayo Fafumi, advised the government to be careful in accepting the offer of the insurgents. Chairman, House Committee on Establishment and Training, Omowumi Edet, says the government should not consider negotiating the innocent schoolgirls for the release of criminals. On a spot, Chairman, House Committee on Service and Special Duties, Ipwola Omishore, says the government should increase intelligence gathering rather than negotiating with the sect, adding the security personnel should be strengthened and ensure that they were always ahead in terms of intelligence rather than dialogue with the sect. The All Progressives Party has fixed the date of its national convention for the 13th and 14th of next month in Abuja. The party, at the end of its National Executive Council at the Federal Capital City, also raises concerns about what it described as the federal government's insincerity in the fight against Boko Haram and the search for the abducted girls. It accused the Goodluck Jonathan administration of not reaching out to it on how to forge a common front against Boko Haram. The nation's leading opposition party says it remains committed to a non-partisan approach to end the scourge of Boko Haram despite the federal government's partisanship. The senators unanimously approved President Goodluck Jonathan's request for a 6-month extension of emergency rule in the northeastern states of Adamawa, Borno and Yobe. The Senate demanded for a sustained military operation in all 3 states under emergency rule with a view to dislodging the insurgents. In a move that tends to alleviate the feelings of senators who were opposed to extending the emergency rule, it says the Jonathan administration should introduce a Marshall Plan for affected areas. The Senate also encourages the president to send in a request of supplementary budget to meet military and security needs in the region. Meanwhile, senators from the Northeast acceded to President Jonathan's request for extension of emergency rule in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe, but say it is with a heavy heart. The senators say the agreeing to the extension is not on the basis that certain conditions, is rather on the basis that certain conditions articulated by them must be considered. Some of the conditions include a monthly briefing of the Senate by service chiefs, proper arming of soldiers, and that a supplementary budget be submitted to meet financial requirements to combat insurgency, among others. Senator Margie Lawan says the envisaged Marshall Plan and Immediate Intervention Fund are the immediate measures that the states were waiting to see implemented. The lawmakers added that with constant briefing from the service chiefs, the Senate would ascertain if the extension was working, and if not, it would immediately call for its revocation. Bello Tukor says he is hopeful that with the extension approved, the federal government will bring the war to an end. An Abuja Federal High Court has declined jurisdiction in a suit filed by suspended CBN Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. The court has transferred the case to the National Industrial Court for determination. Delivering judgment, Justice Gabriel Kolawole held that the plaintiff's suit was a matter within the purview and exclusive jurisdiction of the President of the National Industrial Court to resolve. He therefore ordered that the case be transferred in accordance with the National Industrial Court Act. Kolawole held that it would be inappropriate for him to go into the merit of the suit because Sanusi's suit bordered on employer-employee dispute concerning CBN, a federal government agency. Justice Kolawole also struck out the name of the Inspector General of Police from the suit, as prayed by its counsel, Solomon Umar. The chairman, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, Ekpo Nta, recently says that stealing is not corruption. Some legal practitioners refer to the statement as a setback to the nation's fight against corruption. Our judiciary correspondent has details in this report presented from our studios.
Ekpo Nta made the statement while hosting Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, referring Nigerians to go back to what is taught in school to find out the difference. President Jonathan, in a recent media chat, had said that 70% of what Nigerians refer to as corruption is stealing.
Both are interwoven, because if you say something is somebody is corrupt, corruption means so many things. You know, because typically it had to do with moral, moral perversion. Somebody who is entrusted with something and he goes back to betray that trust, that could be part of corruption. Stealing, literally stealing means taking something that does not legitimately belong to you. I think that's stealing. If you look at both definitions, they are interwoven. You understand? But if somebody says stealing is not corruption, then what is stealing? Because ordinarily you wouldn't take something that does not belong to you.
Chairman, Nigeria Bar Association, Ikeja Branch, says the Nigerian Criminal Code has separate prescriptions for stealing and corruption, adding that there are criminal offenses with criminal consequences.
There are different sections of the law that makes provision as to stealing. Stealing is defined as a criminal offense under a particular section of the criminal code, just like corruption is also defined. That is the extent of the definition, the distinction, and of course the prescription of the minimum punishment you will serve if you are convicted when you have committed that offense. But both of them are criminal offenses. There is no clear distinction in English language about corruption and stealing. They are all criminal offenses, and there is no one of them that is a virtue. It's very, very important. We distinguish that also, because he was echoing what the president has earlier on said when he held a presidential chat 3 or 4 months ago. making stealing or theft look as something that is a virtue. It's not a virtue. Stealing is not a virtue. Corruption is also not a virtue. They are all criminal offenses that have what we call criminal consequences, for which, if you are convicted, you'll be taken to prison. And so none of them is something that anyone now should promote.
Another legal practitioner, Wahab Shitu, says, though everyone has a right to freedom of expression, the statement credited to the ICPC boss is a major setback to the fight against corruption in Nigeria.
Stealing is a species of corruption. So to say that stealing is not corruption is not conceptually correct. With due respect to the gentlemen who are credited to have made the statement, I think it's also a reflection of the lack of political will to deal with the scourge of corruption that may have been responsible for some of these attempts to make this distinction.
The statement, which has generated confusion, has since been criticized by many Nigerians who say the agency should not make excuses for corruption in the country.
You're watching Core TV Primetime News live from Lagos. Coming up next is Business News with Savannah Izopo shortly after this break.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ghana. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. You can now turn on your MTN mobile phone data to enjoy a browsing rate of 5 kobo per kilobyte with MTN One World. Thank you.
Absolutely. Browse like home with MTN One World. Surfing the web from any MTN operating country costs the same like home. Enjoy affordable rates when you call and send text messages. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN. Everywhere you go.
The global competitive map is changing with the rapid advancement of Africa. If you're not speaking to Africa this time, perhaps you're not speaking at all. Join the continent's leading public relations practitioners at the 26th edition of the All African Public Relations Association Conference, APRA Mauritius 2014. Venue, Le Méridien Hotel, Point Oxpiment, Mauritius. Date, 27th to 31st May 2014. Theme, Advancing Africa. For further details, visit www.afapr.org. Africa, it's time to find your goals. Supported by
this One Wash Challenge will test Ariel to see if it removes stains in one wash. Let the challenge begin. First, chocolate and juice. We will wash shirts with Ariel. Look, Ariel has cleaned in just one wash. So which detergent removes stains in one wash? Ariel, P&G Everyday Quality Brand.
Every day, every hour, and every minute. News break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Welcome back. Just before business tonight, let's visit Ekiti, where the wife of the state governor, Bisi Fayemi, has emphasized the need for women to participate in politics, especially in the forthcoming June 24th governorship election in the state. Our Ekiti state correspondent, Rashid Rashid, has details in this report presented from our studios.
Rural dwellers make up a larger of the population in Ekiti state. The governor's wife, Bisi Fayemi, during her yearly farmsteads and local market tour, advised women to be actively involved in politics to protect the interest of the rural dwellers.
I went around the farmsteads to encourage our women on the farmsteads who usually don't have access to a lot of services that women have in the urban or semi-rural areas. A lot of them also need basic facilities that the government needs to be able to provide. And as I said, as I go around, I use the opportunity to do voter education because a lot of our elderly citizens, especially the women who are voters, need help and guidance. And we also need to encourage our young women as well who are very engaged and energized and need a sense of direction and leadership.
Speakers at the event praised the efforts of the state government in empowering women
We've come a long way in Ekiti State, especially with the support of the wife of our governor, who knows and understands how to articulate the needs of women and how to place them where they actually are. Because many women are capable, but they don't have the wherewithal to actualize those dreams. What she's done is she's provided a platform for us to be able to actualize that.
The governor's wife underscored the importance of women in the forthcoming governorship election.
Doing on this trip is voters' education. You know, people may support you and want to vote for you, but if they don't know how to do it, then you don't get the results you want. So the strategy is to help our women, who are the ones who sit with the votes, to understand their roles on the day of election and to know how to educate the people in town where to vote exactly.
There has been increased voter education as the governorship election draws close. The focus seems to have moved to the rural areas.
Jewel Empowerment Foundation, in collaboration with Nigerian Institute of Medical Research and Positive Life, held a press conference for poor people living with HIV/AIDS. The theme of a vocational conference slated for June is Curbing the Stigma, Giving Relevance. Anita Fatuji has details.
According to the United States Department of State, Nigeria has the second largest number of people living with HIV/AIDS in Africa. Most of the victims suffer from stigmatization daily, a situation that this non-governmental organization, Jewel Empowerment Foundation, in collaboration with Nigerian Institute of Medical Research and Positive Life Organization of Nigeria, says it is determined to address. The president of the foundation, Fisayo Ajisola, says the organization seeks to create awareness for people to come out and support the fight against stigmatization.
We have people that are in school, we have youth that are HIV positive that are in university, some even primary school, because some were born with the virus. We have people like living with HIV, secondary school, university, some working, and once people around them get to know that they are positive, they are kicked out, you know, without considering any means of surviving. It's really pathetic. It's something that has been on my mind for so long, and I see this medium as a way to preach the gospel of stopping the stigmatization. Let's help to give relevance. We want to make them know that it's not the end of the world.
Ajisola says the planned conference will outline 10 different vocal skills for the affected persons.
Yeah, the skills to be acquired. As I said, baking and confectionery. We have makeup and nail polishing, photography, interior and exterior decoration. We have graphic design and web designing, then script writing and directing. We have bead making and wire works, shoe making and bag making, the one they use with fabric. We have this shoe and bag with fabric. Then we have detergents, soap and antiseptic making. Then millinery, which is the hats.
The coordinator, research planning and management of Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, Emmanuel Odigbe, says the workshop should look beyond stigmatization.
Happy that you're focusing on the HIV patients, but I want to plead that as time goes on, you look beyond the HIV patients, because you don't know, you might be thinking of just stigmatization, but you don't know what level of national problems the organization is trying to solve. We all know the kind of situation Nigeria is in today. The level of unemployment is very, very high. The youth, restlessness is very, very high. When people are not employed, especially the youth, the tendency is high to get into all sorts of things, including criminal tendencies. So your activities will indirectly help us reduce this menace, this national menace that we have right now.
Some victims living with HIV/AIDS expressed hope that the workshop will better their lives.
Most of us here, we don't have a paid job. We come here with sorts of projects and we do projects. Most of our work is field work. But thank God for this project. After this empowerment, I really hope and believe that with it, we'll be able to stand on our own, build something tangible for ourselves, and then also look forward for more that will come for others too. So we really thank God for this project.
The rise in stigmatization has been attributed as one reason why infected persons do not usually get help. Anita Fatunji, Core TV News, Lagos.
And now it's time for business news, coming up shortly after this break.
The global competitive map is changing with the rapid advancement of Africa. If you're not speaking to Africa this time, perhaps you're not speaking at all. Join the continent's leading public relations practitioners at the 26th edition of the All-African Public Relations Association Conference, APRA Mauritius 2014. Venue, Le Meridian Hotel, Point Oxpiment, Mauritius. Date, 27th to 31st May 2014. Theme, Advancing Africa. For further details, visit www.afapr.org. Africa, it's time to find your goals. Supported by
This One Wash Challenge will test Ariel to see if it removes stains in one wash. Let the challenge begin. First, chocolate and juice. We will wash shirts with Ariel. Look, Ariel has cleaned in just one wash. So which detergent removes stains in one wash? Ariel, P&G Everyday Quality Brand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ghana. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. You can now turn on your MTN mobile phone data to enjoy a browsing rate of 5 kobo per kilobyte with MTN One World. Thank you.
Absolutely. Browse like home with MTN One World. Surfing the web from any MTN operating country costs the same like home. Enjoy affordable rates when you call and send text messages. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Nigerians continue to
Tonight, the city of Lagos waits at the dark as all routes.
Be the first to know from the north, south, east, west, and around Africa. We break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV.
24-hour news station.
You're welcome to the business world. I am Sabena Izoku. A sharp drop in the nation's external reserve is now a source of worry for the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The committee, at the end of the meeting at the Apex Bank headquarters in Abuja, noted that the erosion is exposing the country's economy to vulnerabilities arising from both domestic and external shocks. The erosion had accentuated the regime of persistently high interest rates as well as elevated demand for foreign exchange. Addressing newsmen shortly after the two-day meeting held at the CBN's headquarters in Abuja, the acting governor CBN, Sarah Alade, explained that following the depletion, the committee had mandated the management bank to continue to monitor developments in the fiscal space with a view to taking appropriate monetary policy actions. She posed the country's gross external reserve as at May 15, 2014 as $38.30 billion compared to $37.40 billion at end March and $42.85 billion at end December 2013. She, however, added that despite the depletion, the current level of the country's external reserve could provide approximately 9 months of import cover. The Nigerian Customs Service has commenced the implementation of new duties on import vehicles and accessories introduced by the federal government with effects from the beginning of this month. The new policy introduced by the government in November 2013 requires importers of cars to pay 35% duty on them, while tires, buses, lorries attracts 20% duty in addition to 5% value-added tax. Assistant Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Customs Service, Joseph Atta, says the implementation of the policy started following a government directive issued in November 2013. The Director General, National Automotive Council, Aminu Jala, had last weekend revealed that the implementation of the new policy would commence on the 1st of July. Meanwhile, Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents and National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders have been protesting the sudden implementation of the policy in the last few weeks. The association urged the federal government to re-examine its national automotive policy, which occasioned the increase in duties pending the establishment of car assembly plants in the country. The Nigerian Export and Import Bank says it made 5 billion naira financial intervention available to some key sectors of the economy. The NEXI Managing Director, Robert Oya, who made the disclosure in Abuja, says the bank had created lots of wealth and alleviated poverty through its intervention in the last 4 years, adding that it generated 24,000 jobs through its fund. He reiterated determination of the bank to ensure that it attracted 51.2 billion naira through its activities annually. The managing director said the bank gave 35.6 billion naira intervention of non-oil sector and also guaranteed $27.3 million, about 4.3 billion naira to beneficiaries in the sector. He added that over 90% of the intervention made for the small and medium enterprises because that was where small jobs could be created. The bank, according to him, focuses mainly on small and medium enterprises that have elements of export, as Exim Bank is focused of export-oriented small and medium enterprises. French food processing company has announced its plan to expand its business in Nigeria to improve the quality and taste of cassava bread. The director of the company, Serge Momos, made this known in Paris while making a presentation on the company's expectations in Nigeria. Momos, who was speaking to a group of journalists from Nigeria on a study trip to France, says it would also expand the shelf life of bread. He added that the company would work to extend the shelf life of bakery and increase its products to include specialized breads, especially in major cities in the country. Momos, however, listed the challenges of doing business in Nigeria, include long duration of getting a product certified by NAFDAC. The National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria says it will undertake a rebranding to save it from unqualified intruders. This event took place at the Center for Management Development. The report.
The national president of the institute, Ganiyu Koledoye, says there is a need to save the profession from quacks.
The ministries, and they ask them to submit their budget, which is to be harmonized. You'll be surprised how long it takes each ministry to bring their budgets out. Some don't even bring it out until 4 months into the year. And when they bring it in, the several meetings they had and all the rest of it, you cannot believe it. This is who we are, the level of efficiency and effectiveness we have at the moment. And it is also compounded by the interplay between the Parliament and the executive.
Africa and Nigeria has become the focus of investment and emerging economies in the world. Speaking on the role of emerging markets, Koledoye says $65 million commitment by the foreign investment can be filtered down to the man on the street if translated to massive industrial development. This will result to job creation and wealth for the African population.
If you create employment and you make it easier for people to get jobs, nobody wants handouts. Tell the ministry when people come and have ideas, nurture it through, let them make business out of it and let them live.
He added that economies all over the world is driven by the private sector, stressing that Nigeria is not a manufacturing or producing country, but the economy is consumption-based.
I don't believe Nigeria can ever be a manufacturing country, which is not a crime. Britain doesn't manufacture. Only 1% of GDP is contributed by manufacturing sector. But service and marketing and investment is pulling a lot of resources to many of these consumption-based economies. Nigeria is a consumption-based economy.
The rebranding articulated by the Institute is to ensure a robust economy as the world focuses on Nigeria being Africa's largest economy.
Now, on the Nigerian Stock Exchange report, The shares of the Carvington Offshore Support Group PLC got listed at 9 naira 50 kobo with about 3.35 trillion units of outstanding shares, bringing total stock additional to 31.38 billion naira. Meanwhile, equities on the floor of the Nigerian Stocks Exchange ended on a positive note today, as the NSE All Shares Index appreciated by 0.04% to close at 31,162.49 basis points, as compared with depreciation of 0.03% recorded previously. Market capitalization increased by 44.28% to close at 12.93 billion naira. At the end of trading, a total volume of 298.21 million shares worth 3.90 billion naira were traded in 4,660 deals. However, looking at the top 5 gainers, Port Oil PLC led the gainers table, followed by the Nigerian Breweries, Mobil PLC and Stanbic IBTC. Nestle PLC, followed by Wamco and Better Glass, led the top 5 losers chart. Zenith Bank PLC, followed by WAPIC, FCMB, First Bank of Nigeria and Axis Bank PLC are on the top 5 trades for today. And that's it on business news.
Very warm welcome to you. Thanks for joining us on Sport News tonight. I am Brownson Wana. The Super Eagles gaffer Stephen Keshi has revealed that he's confident that his men will put a great showing when the 2014 FIFA World Cup kicks off in Brazil. Nigerian national team handler Stephen Keshi says he's gaining increased self-belief as the 2014 FIFA World Cup draws closer. The former Togo and Mali handler, who will lead his side against Scotland in an international friendly, is expected to announce his 23-man squad for the tournament showpiece on June 2nd. Away from that, Brazil footballing great Pelé says he fears the many protests in the country could hurt the World Cup. Thousands of Brazilians have been taken to the street to protest against the high cost of hosting the tournament. Pelé says he sympathizes with the demonstrators, adding that many foreigners could cancel their trip to the World Cup if the protest continues. Pelé says he agrees with many of the protesters' grievance, such as the call for more schools and hospitals. He added that the Brazilian national team should not have to pay for the corruption and politics involved in organizing of the tournament. And away from that, to the UEFA Champions League, Atletico Madrid boss Diego Simeone says he will give Diego Costa and Adrian Thuram every chance to prove their fitness ahead of the Champions League final against Real Madrid. Both players were forced off with injuries with the first 25 minutes as Atletico claimed their first La Liga title in 18 years with a 1-0 draw away to Barcelona at the weekend. Atletico go into the game full of confidence, having ended Real Madrid and Barcelona's 10 years domination of the La Liga, having lost just twice in 10 meetings against the two sides this season. Both sides are likely to be weakened as Real Madrid have doubts over fitness of Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema. Diego Simeone says that the absence of suspended Xabi Alonso in Real Madrid's squad will be the biggest setback of all time. And away from that, to the EPL, where the former England left-back Ashley Cole is out of contract this summer. He has revealed that he is weighing up his option for next season and does not expect to sign another contract at the Stamford Bridge. The 33-year-old became a free agent on July 1st and has been linked with the likes of Real Madrid, Galatasaray, PSG. Meanwhile, Redknapp says he could do a job for a top club in the Premier League and could provide the perfect solution to Brendan Rodgers' left-back problem at Anfield. Ashley Cole has been the best left-back the Premier League has ever seen, according to Redknapp. And finally, on sport news tonight, Great Britain Dan Evans was beaten from the first round of qualifying from the French Open in Paris. Evans, who is British number 2, lost 6-2, 6-1 to Portugal Gaston Elias, who is ranked 187th in the world rankings. Evans' Davis Cup teammate James Ward claimed a 6-3, 7-5 victory against Radu Albert of Moldova to set up a tie with Americans Ryan Harrison. Dan Cox also advanced into the second qualifiers of the tournament. Evans was broken 4 times by the opponent that is ranked 51 places below him in the performance littered with errors. And that's sport news tonight. I am Brownson Uwana.
The global competitive map is changing with the rapid advancement of Africa. If you're not speaking to Africa this time, perhaps you're not speaking at all. Join the continent's leading public relations practitioners at the 26th edition of the All-African Public Relations Association Conference, APRA Mauritius 2014. Venue, Le Méridien Hotel, Point aux Piments, Mauritius. Date, 27th to 31st May 2014. Theme, Advancing Africa. For further details, visit www.afapr.org. Africa, it's time to find your goals. Supported by
This one wash challenge will test Ariel to see if it removes stains in one wash. Let the challenge begin. First, chocolate and juice. We will wash shirts with Ariel. Look, Ariel has cleaned in just one wash. So which detergent removes stains in one wash? Ariel, P&G Everyday Quality Brand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ghana. Please remain seated and ensure your seatbelts are fastened. You can now turn on your MTN mobile phone data to enjoy a browsing rate of 5 kobo per kilobyte with MTN One World. Thank you.
Absolutely. Browse like home with MTN One World. Surfing the web from any MTN operating country costs the same like home. Enjoy affordable rates when you call and send text messages. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Nigerians continue to
Tonight, the city of Lagos went and dark as all routes.
Be the first to know from the north, south, east, west, and around Africa. We break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV,
24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back. And now to top stories making headline on the foreign scene. A South African judge has ordered Oscar Pistorius to undergo up to 30 days of psychiatric tests to establish if he's criminally responsible for killing his girlfriend on Valentine's Day of 2013. Thokozile Masipa says the Paralympian sprinter should report to Wescopi Psychiatric Hospital in Pretoria as an outpatient each working day from morning until afternoon 4 p.m. He'll be tested to see whether he was capable of appreciating the wrongfulness of his act or acting in accordance with the appreciation of the wrongfulness of his act. Pistorius is accused of murdering 29-year-old model River Stinkham at his Pretoria home after a row.
Superintendent of the Westkopis Hospital on 26 May 2014 at 9 o'clock in the morning, and on every weekday thereafter for a period not exceeding 30 days, following psychiatrists inquire into whether the accused, by reason of mental illness or mental defect, was at the time of the commission of the offense criminally responsible for the offenses charged, whether he was capable of appreciating the wrongfulness of his act or of acting in accordance with an appreciation of the wrongfulness of his act. Postponed to 30 June 2014.
Away from South Africa now, United States Vice President Joe Biden blasted Russia's annexation of Crimea, saying borders should not be changed at gunpoint, as he began a visit to Romania days before a crucial vote in Ukraine. Ukraine is due to hold a presidential vote as it struggles to overcome a political crisis that threatens its very existence after Russia annexed Crimea and pro-Moscow rebels took up arms in the east against Kiev. The U.S. Vice President warned that the West would impose greater costs on Russia unless Moscow ceased efforts to destabilize Ukraine. Biden also sought to reassure Romania's leaders that the former communist state will be protected by NATO in the event of Russian aggression.
Aggression in Crimea, less than 250 miles from Romanian territory, from NATO's borders, reminds us why we need NATO. Russia has done violates not just Ukraine's sovereignty, but a fundamental principle we fought for in the 20th century and thought we had clearly established. Europe's borders should never again be changed at the point of a gun, which is why we continue to condemn Russia's illegal occupation of Crimea. As long as Russia's effort to destabilize Ukraine continues, we must remain resolute in imposing greater cost on Russia, imposing those costs together. America's commitment to collective defense under Article 5 of NATO is a sacred obligation in our view. A sacred obligation not just for now, but for all time. So I'm here to say on behalf of the President what I hope you already know. You can count on us, period. We do what we say, and we mean what we say.
Back in Africa, Malawians voting closely fought elections, but polling was delayed by several hours in some parts of the country, sparking anger among voters. Impatient voters sang and shouted, with around 50 angry youths staging an impromptu mini-protest, carrying branches and chanting anti-government songs. Some 7.5 million voters are to choose a president, lawmakers and local government councillors in the 5th democratic elections since the end of decades of one-party rule in 1994. 12 candidates are in the race for the presidency, but pollsters say the victor will be one of the 4 front-runners.
That they wanted democracy, and every 5 years we come back and vote. So this is very important for me, because Malawians have the right to choose who they want to govern them. This nation almost bankrupt. I'm getting to the end of that 2 years when Malawi is at a better place. We have grown by 6% economic growth. We have fuel. We have enough food. We have harvested enough and have an overproduction of 1 million metric tons. So Malawi is at a better place. But the decision to give me the mandate to continue belongs to Malawi.
And now to end the primetime news, a recap of our top stars. Scores died as multiple bomb blasts ripped through a market in Jos, the Plateau State capital. And we also told you that the Senate unanimously approved extension of the state of emergency in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe, and has given federal government 7 conditions to ensure successful implementation. That's it on the news tonight. On behalf of the production crew, I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thank you for watching.